Hey, Chris, how are you doing today?
Grant, great to see you.
It's always a pleasure, always a pleasure, because when I see you sitting there with the smile that you
Yeah.
have on your face right now, I know you got something juicy that's cooking up. And we've always had some very good, timely conversations on the big picture. I mean, I had to admit, we were talking just earlier. I said, you nailed it when you're talking about tariffs. We were just talking about tariffs last week and about trade. And you said, you know what? I really feel the U.S. is going to punt on these tariffs, even though they were coming up to start in August. You said, I think, there's other things going on here. Maybe it's more a strategic move. I'm not so sure we're going to go ahead and just institute, what we see on the table. It's probably going to be some more negotiations, whatnot. And you nailed it, So I'm starting to call you the wizard of Wall Street. Am I wrong?
Grant, I mean, that's heaping too much onto to these little shoulders. Okay. I appreciate it though. I do. And yeah, I mean, in my view, the tariffs are being used as a tool by the administration to bring some things back into line to where there's a less disadvantage for our country, for the United States of America, less disadvantages. Okay, to me, it's strictly a tool, and yeah, we might see that some tariffs will remain in place, but basically, it reminds me of going back more than 100 years to one of my most favorite presidents, who was Theodore Roosevelt.
Mm,
He very famously said, "Talk softly, but carry a big stick."
true,
And I
true.
think the only difference today is that we have a leader who definitely doesn't talk softly.
That would not be how you would describe the current president. I am sure there's some more, colorful words that some people would say. I mean, it just really depends. Never, you have probably anybody would admit he's probably one of the most polarizing figures in American politics in a long time, and you just don't know. But he's shaking some things up, and we'll see how everything pans out. At the end of the day, this is how the history will be remembered. But these are interesting times all the way around, especially when we're talking about finance. I've never seen, me and you both, we've been around a little bit. We always still would say cash is king, but we have to admit that there is a lot going on in the world of finance today that has never been around. Digital currency is becoming more and more used. It's almost like when I leave the house, I hate when people ask for cash. Now, like, oh my God, I got cash, because I just went to a restaurant. You just use a debit card, or you tap, right? And there's this the modality of using currency has expanded greatly. I mean, it's just, and I know you love talking about payments, you love talking about cryptocurrencies, and you love talking about our new little darling in the room, the stable coin. So I'm gonna just shift this over to you and tell us what's on your mind, Chris.
Well, Grant, I'm going to start with two things just based on what we said. And first, I started off with the statement, "Talk softly, carry a big stick." And that was a quote from one of our past presidents, Theodore Roosevelt, who I might add also was not a soft talker by any means. Okay. So there's some similarities there. I'll also say this is, we grew up exactly. Cash was king, right? Cash is king. Okay. No, we went from cash is king to credit is king
Yeah.
to now crypto is king.
Yeah.
Okay. We've seen that passages, the handoffs are going on. Okay. And I can tell you in my own house, I stopped, carrying cash around a long time ago, basically because it's like you would walk in the house and they could smell you had cash in your pocket. So switching to cards, was like a great thing until all of a sudden, they found that they could, keep your card in their wallet or ask for the card. So they switched everything to the phone. You can't ask for my phone. So that's the kind of progression that we see also because and I said this before. You have to remember that. the bank of dad is always a losing banker. Money goes out, it never comes back in. Okay.
Never comes back in. It looks totally different if it does.
So let's get that out of the way. But yes, my eyes are fixated right now on really one of the new darlings out there, as you rightly said, which is stable coins. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of things, some of the basics on stable coins again.
Mm-hmm.
And the first is that stable coins, it's a cryptocurrency. They are a digital currency, and they are on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So you have both the visibility and the security, because to date, no one has been able to hack into the blockchain and make any changes or steal anything because of the nature of the blockchain. While people have had losses, but those losses have been in the wallets that they use and not the transactions on the blockchain. Mm-hmm. And let me give just a little basic reason why. Okay, so if you look at the blockchain as, you have a block, data goes into it, you move to the next block, it gets filled, data goes into it, you move to the next block, data goes into it, and it's all date stamped. So if we're in this block here, and somebody goes in and tries to change it, right? Every block after that would also have to be changed.
Yes.
Okay, just a very basic component of a much more complicated position that the blockchain takes, but just a basic component of why it is so secure, right?
Yes.
It's just not possible, especially today with the huge amount of transactions that are going on throughout blockchains everywhere, right? So we have that security. Okay, it's the most secure database we have at this time. Okay, and yeah, there's talk that maybe quantum computers will be able to break a blockchain. Not proven. We don't know it. Possibility exists. Leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay, right. And I will also say to you that I've seen some blockchains advertising that they are, get this, quantum proof.
Yeah.
Right. And you're a brand guy all day, right? So you can see the marketing value in that, especially because there's no standard for what that quantum proof would be. There's no test, there's no regulation, there's no government requirement, there's no body that you go to who can. So brilliant marketing when you think about it.
Well, it's good marketing, but at the same time, as you said, and I don't live too far from the show me state these days in Missouri. Like, you got to show me that. I don't know if I put, pen to paper or, put up cash to that statement because it's unproven. Very risky observation. There's a lot going on, and when it comes to breaking code, when it comes to quantum, so that's a very, very tall order. I would not, because I would say like this: if a human being created the blockchain, a human being can destroy it. So don't think that can happen. But you can put other securities in place, other measures in place, but to your point, what is the most secure method today, right now? You got to say blockchain is pretty good. But to your point with the stablecoin, the only reason we do digital banking today is because it got backed by the financial systems that run the world. They said, hey, we're going to guarantee your payments online for e-commerce. And when that happened, boom, you had eBays, you had Amazons, you got Alibabas. Mm-hmm. I mean, go on and on and on. I mean, what's running the world today is digital platforms. So we say, hey, why don't we improve that transaction in the digital world and start looking at stablecoin? I love stablecoin because it helps many, many economies that are right now, in a risky situation. You don't always want to be, you might have like playing a game of Monopoly. You got all the chips, but it's no fun if you got all the chips and nobody else has anything. You don't have any property. You don't have any cars. You don't have any houses. You don't have any business. It's kind of a lonely game. So let's get some other players in the game and really, really enjoy the competition that can take place. Because, do you like watching blowouts of football? I don't think so. So I think we have an opportunity to see some new plays, let's say, with stablecoin and see what that's going to look like. We're at our first break, but when we come back, you kind of laid the foundation. You kind of talked about where we're going, but the audience truly needs to understand, because it's like the beginning of the game, right? When you play Monopoly, right? The banker has to dole out the money. I want Chris to dole out some money, dole out some stablecoin knowledge, so we really understand what's going on here. Okay, does that sound good, Chris?
Grant, as soon as we come back, I'm going to give you the 3 things that are the criteria in simple terms of what a stable coin is. Be right back with you on that.
All right.
Third Wall Street is a new emerging global capital markets formation and structured trifactor financial hub at the U.S. Third Border in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, in the Caribbean and Latin America. The new Third Wall Street is the home of the Alexander Hamilton Financial Center and named in honor of Alexander Hamilton, an American founding father, first U.S. Treasury Secretary, and architect of the U.S. financial system and modern America. Third Wall Street is located in a U.S. National Heritage Area, Opportunity Zone, and the boyhood home of Alexander Hamilton in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Island, connecting 3 financial hubs in the Americas by way of new innovative financial technology and markets: New York Wall Street South, Brickell Avenue, Miami, and Third Wall Street in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, and established the new Caribbean America's Single Economy Zone, developed by SETI Case Capital Markets. Third Wall Street will transform financial markets, improving access to capital worldwide. Visit www.thirdwallstreet.com to learn more.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaw, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaugh explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
All right, Chris, we are back, and the excitement is just building. I can feel it. I can feel the suspense in the room. He said he's got three things. I got to put two hands up, but I'll go with these three fingers. He's got three things he's going to share with us. Chris, what's on your mind?
Grant, I want to make this simple, easy to understand what a stable coin is and what you need to have to be a stable coin. Okay. And look, the stable coins have actually been around for 8, 9, 10 years. The most common one is USDT, which we call Tether. And then there's also USDC, which is the circle one, right? So they've been around for quite a long time, but we're seeing stable coins now develop into other things. The criteria is pretty simple. Okay. Number one, which we kind of mentioned and talked about already, it has to be on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you can't have a stable coin without a blockchain.
Yep.
And we do that for recording, for security, for speed of transaction, for reliability, for all these things. And of course, on the blockchain, it gets date stamped, so you have a permanent record, right? That's number one. Number two, right, is that the stable coin must be backed by an equivalent value. And again, the ones I mentioned, USDT and USDC, are both backed by the US dollar, right? So what that means is that every one USDT is equal to one US dollar, right? And that stays that way. And one of the ways it stays that way is USDT backs every one of their stable coins with an actual US dollar. And the way they do that, which is also beneficial to the US government, is generally they're doing that by buying US Treasury bonds. That's the number one security that they're using to keep that equilibrium of 1-to-1. It's not the only one they use, but that's the primary one, right? So, of course, it's a new buyer of US Treasury bonds, which is good for the US. The other good thing is for Tether, for the USDT, is that you're securing 1-to-1 your value, but Treasury bonds are also a guaranteed percentage of payment. So you actually can sit there and still make profit. Okay, so when we talk about other things, commodities, real estate, other things of value, they can all be backed with a stable coin, or they can back the stable coin, whichever way you want to be able to look at that, right? Because the important thing is that you have that equilibrium of value, right? So we've seen that in the art world, for instance, where paintings are auctioned off and then are tokenized by a stable coin that people can now buy, and they can own a small piece of a Picasso, for instance, that might value at 10 million, right? So you have that. You can only sell enough stable coins to equal that 10 million, right? You can't sell more than that. It has to be that equilibrium, right? So that's the second condition, is there needs to be this 1-to-1 valuation, right?
Correct.
The third step is that asset has to be stationary. It has to be a value that is unmovable. Okay, so in other words, if you put up property to tokenize it, so it becomes a stable coin, right? You can't now also go and sell that property. You can't also go and borrow against that property. You can't do anything with that property except it becomes the collateral for the stable coin. Right? So those are the three conditions. You need blockchain, you need a 1-to-1 equilibrium, and you need a stationary or a asset that is unremovable.
That's important. That's important. That's a rock, right? That's what you would want for a stable coin, right? That's more difference between a meme coin and stable coin. Like a Doge coin, I believe, is more of a meme coin, whether you have a stable coin that is now a U.S. backed, not just in the crypto world, but within the entire financial sector, whether it's traditional or not, is a very powerful thing. Now, as we start looking at that, and we've talked about this, but we need to bring it up again. In St. Croix, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the development of a financial center that is there, that becomes the U.S. dollar representative in CARICOM, because now there is a relationship with CARICOM. Now you have an opportunity for the Caribbean to participate in stablecoin in a not a de-risked situation. It's a very, very stable situation, and that everybody doesn't have to we're going to do this, and Jamaican dollars going to do it, and Guyanese dollars are going to do it, other things no, we can use this CARICOM coin, however they want to call it. The stable coin can be that unifying force that brings a lot of new commerce and opportunity to the region. So do you see this? Here's the question. Do you see this as a truly pivotal point in history when it comes to finance, when it comes to business, and when it comes to the awakening Caribbean market?
I absolutely do, Grant. And I will tell you a couple of things. I mean, one is, yes, there is talk of and the option of a Caribbean-based stablecoin. It might be very useful, but again, you have to look at the three conditions that I said, right? So that stable coin, let's call it, as you mentioned, the Carib coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, or the CARICOM coin, right? Let's say it has to be on the blockchain, right? It has to have a one-to-one equilibrium. So what would that equilibrium be, right? And that's could be a little tricky part here. And again, it has to be an unremovable asset, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so what might be the easier road at this moment to do would be to continue using one of the two largest stable coins out there, as I mentioned earlier, USDT. I mean, by market cap, USDT is in the top 20 of cryptocurrencies by market cap. And keep in mind that when we talk about market cap, Bitcoin is way ahead of everyone, okay? So if we look at the top 20, 62% of the market cap is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is over $2.34 trillion, right? The total market cap is just a little bit more than 3 trillion, right? So you can see
Yep.
that 60% is it's dominant. In some ways, it's almost as dominant as the US dollar in global trade, which is about 80% of trade, right? So there's maybe some similarities there. I don't know, but that's the first thing, right? So in those top 20 cryptocurrencies, both stable coins are part of that top 20. So they have huge market caps in the billions, basically, right? So you could actually start right now just using. So what you would have to do is, I'm in Jamaica. I go and I buy USDT with my Jamaican dollars. Now my value is fixed, right? Because it's tied 1-to-1 to US dollars. Doesn't matter now what the Jamaican dollar does, goes up or down. I'm fixed, right? And now it's just the same thing as going to somebody in Paris and sending them US dollars as I send them USDT, which they can keep in their own crypto account or wallet, or they can sell it on any exchange and get US dollars for it, right? So this is really an important point, and it has some historic value, like you said, because what we've seen the last 15, maybe 20 years in the Caribbean has been the removing of the major banks out of the region, and we call this de-risking, right? And we've seen it become much more difficult to transact with the rest of the world because basically you need one of the major currencies. And of course, as I mentioned, 80% of trade is US dollars. So that's the key one. That's the one everyone's looking for, right? But certainly euros, which is number 2, British pound is number 3, Japanese yen, Chinese renminbi, these other currencies. There's really 6 currencies, and then there's the rest of the world. So the Caribbean falls right into that rest of the world bucket, which is not
and to your point, we got like a few seconds here. We're going to go back to another break, and then we're going to come back because I want you to talk about the rest of the world because you travel around the globe. That is part of what you do. I've been hearing a lot, like you go to the continent of Africa, they're transacting in cryptocurrencies a lot more than we are. It was the same thing, like their use of mobile technology was really big. And another thing I talk about is drone use over in that world is light years ahead of what we are doing here in the US. It sounds like a new concept here, but it's been going on for a long time because of their terrain, how they're built. So as we're getting up to speed on the use of cryptocurrencies, it's already in play in some of these other worlds. And we want to understand how it's working, if it's working successfully or not, but what that truly looks like. So when we come back, we're going to have a conversation about that. Is that okay with you, Chris?
Boy, I'm loving it, Grant. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
In today's fast-paced financial landscape, access to capital is the key to success. At the heart of this revolution is Case Capital Markets, powered by SETI Case. Here, innovation and investment converge, creating a dynamic environment where businesses can thrive and reach new heights. Introducing Grant McGaw, the senior advisor at Case Capital Markets. Grant is a visionary leader, dedicated to connecting businesses with institutional capital and strategic funding. His expertise opens doors to game-changing investment opportunities, making him an invaluable partner for companies looking to scale and succeed in the competitive world of finance. With an impressive 25 years in technology, 9 years in healthcare, and 6 years in investment banking, Grant McGaw has a proven track record. He has successfully closed over $500 million in high-value transactions, seamlessly bridging technology, healthcare, and infrastructure with innovative financial solutions. His experience is a testament to his ability to drive success. Case Capital Markets offers businesses direct access to over 32,000 venture capital firms, private equity funds, family offices, and institutional investors. This network empowers mid-market companies with under $100 million in revenue to scale beyond their limits, unlocking unprecedented growth potential. Debt, equity, growth capital, public offerings. These are the building blocks of the future of capital access. Whether you're scaling a business, seeking investment, or exploring market expansion, Grant McGaw is your trusted partner. Together, you can unlock capital and create long-term financial success. The future belongs to those who take action. Are you ready to elevate your business?
All right, we have returned, and we're going to talk about some things that are very important. As Chris alluded to, the emerging markets all over the world and what they're doing. We're talking about payment infrastructure. Obviously, it's going to affect tourism and commerce. We're talking about financial inclusion. What are the challenges to consider and the regional integrations that are out there and the use of already these cryptocurrencies, these stable coins, these meme coins, if you want to call it that, but that whole new world may be new to some of us in the US, but not so new in other parts of the world. What say you, Chris Principe?
Boy, Grant, I got to follow up you. I got to say something. Okay. Well, just as you led me right in here, there is a lot going on in the emerging markets around crypto, more so than we see here in the US or even in Europe, right? And a lot of that is because of the challenges. Now, if we look at Africa as one great example, what I've seen there over the last 10, 15 years is really a leapfrog ahead. And what I mean by that is because, for instance, the banking system hadn't developed as fast as in Europe or in the US, particularly on the technology side, right? Those banks were not tied down to the expense of what we call legacy systems. Mm-hmm. So legacy systems is usually foundational equipment and software that really runs the bank. It's at the bottom of running everything at the bank. In a lot of cases, we call that mission critical software, right? And that's been generally programmed last century, Grant.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And still continues to be used. And a big reason why it continues to be used, and there isn't a bank you can't name that this isn't how it runs, how it works, right? JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, Lloyd's Bank, BNP Paribas, all of them at their heart are being run on old mission critical software in the language we call COBOL that is the foundation for everything that goes on above the bank. Okay. And the reason that this happens is number one, changing is very expensive. But that's not the key reason, okay? Because the banks have the money, okay? If it costs them too much, they pass it on to us. So don't worry, don't feel bad for them, okay?
Right.
The bigger issue is what banks specialize in, which is managing risk. It's a huge, huge, huge risk to try to change the foundational software of the bank. Mm-hmm. Okay? Anything could go wrong. And the biggest concern that top management of every bank has, the CEO, the COO, the CFO, is reputational risk, right? So, look, if there's a problem and somebody hacks the bank and they steal literally billions, right? CEO is not so concerned. One, there's some insurance. Two, we can pass it on. Three, it's not like that big a deal. But if there's something happens and the bank's foundational software goes down and you can no longer access your account and take money out or put money in, that is the worst thing. That's the number one thing no CEO of a bank wants to wake up and see in the morning. And by the way, even for the CEO of the bank, it's not such a big deal because they'll just jettison him out there with a golden parachute.
So they know their job is over. My work is done here.
Yeah, that's it. And they'll write something really nice. Thank you for everything you've done. But here now you have an issue that can literally take the bank down. Okay, so that's why. Now, I bring all this up because the situation is different in places like Africa, in the emerging markets in general. It's different, right? Okay, in Africa, they haven't built that kind of infrastructure into software. They actually have been running manual, into this century. right? There's no bank in Europe or the US that was manual coming into this century. They all got rid of that last century.
Yeah.
Right? So while you might say, oh, that it's terrible, and it created a lot of jobs, number one, but more importantly now is with the new software that's out today, not written on very old but mission critical software like COBOL, where basically, you got to go to the old folks home to even find programmers for it, or the local cemetery if you want to find the programmers for it. So they weren't built on any of that. So they can actually leapfrog ahead and get onto the latest and greatest software today and be way ahead now of all the banks in Europe and the US and a lot of them in Asia too, right? So it's a big advantage that they're actually doing a very good job of taking advantage of. And the greatest example of that is how quickly they moved to mobile banking services.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, I always hear this, there's so much unbanked people in Africa, they're missing out on opportunities. They're not part of the global financial market, and I'm not going to totally dismiss that, but personally, I will say this. What most of us need and want is a way to get paid and a way to pay that's fast, easy, quick, and inexpensive.
That's it. Yeah.
By the way, that's not the banks.
That's not you.
And that's what, the mobile services stepped in there and are really the main way everyone is doing a lot of their payments and a lot of their being able to get paid. Now, let's bring it up to date. And now you bring stable coins into that, like USDT or USDC, right? So now you have a way of taking your local currency, purchasing USDT, and being able to use that USDT to send payments to anybody, anywhere that has a wallet that can accept USDT.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Now, here's the other huge advantages, right? One, you have the stability. So you don't have the FX exchange exposure, which also means you don't have the FX cost. You don't have what the banks really love, which is the FX spread. The kind of the money you don't see that they make. What I've told you before, the banks like to call indirect income.
Mm-hmm.
It's money we don't do anything, but we get it.
Right. That's a lovely thing. I want some of that. I don't have to do anything. I still get paid. It's a beautiful system that, oh, by the way, I created it, but so it works very well.
It is amazing. So yes, the first and very important thing is that now they're able to access things in hard currency that today, through their banking system, and because in a lot of places there's hard currency restrictions on in local economies, right? And a lot of it is because the government doesn't have access to enough hard currency to fill the needs of the people, right? Mm-hmm. And just to clarify, when I say hard currency, I'm generally talking about, the 5 or 6 biggest currencies, which is the US dollar, the British pound, the euro, the yen, and the Japanese renminbi, right? So this is what we're talking about. Now, with stable coins, I have access to any and all of that.
Yes.
Okay, number 2, what is really, really important is that when you use a stable coin to make payment or anything, you can do that 24/7, Grant. You don't have to wait till the bank is open. You don't have to wait because the bank services you 5 days a week. So Saturday and Sunday, you can't make a payment, even though you have the money and it's your money. It's in the bank. It's not really your money. Okay? We're keeping it safe for you. We're protecting you. What? For my own money? Well, thank you very much. Right? So that's another big feature. And then the final feature, and everything seems to be threes today, Grant, right? And the final feature is that payments can go almost instantaneously. I mean, literally, I could be in Nigeria and have the Naira, their currency, purchase a stable coin, and send you, Grant, US dollars, and it would reach your wallet literally in seconds to minutes. Not much more.
Hey, we got to take a quick break. This has been an interesting conversation. We're going to come back so we can end this whole conversation, because this is how we get things done. This has been wonderful. Be right back.
TravelShare. It Marketplace is an innovative, dynamic, user-friendly, and fully comprehensive global travel marketplace, featuring all Caribbean islands as a premier destinations. TravelShare. It Marketplace featured daily travel news, arts, culture, events, travel weather news, individuals' remote work, flex time, paid time off, family leisure time, and travel deals to better connect the U.S., Caribbean, and the Americas worldwide. So no matter where you want to travel in the world for work or leisure, working remotely or on vacation by yourself, with friends or family, whether by air or sea, TravelShare. It Marketplace makes it easy to get you to your destination. Book now at www.travelshare.com.
This is our Caribbean, the world's first climate smart zone, a collection of economies that thrive on renewable energy and technological innovations to confront the effects of climate change and create spaces for its people to be safe, productive, and happy. We are proud to be economies that are at one with our planet while taking advantage of the fourth industrial revolution. In Caribbean 2040, policies are anchored in a sound institutional framework that allows citizens to move freely, experience an improved rule of law, and give expression to their creativity and talents. In Jamaica, economic stability is the norm. Productivity has grown so much that the GDP per capita has increased by 250% since 2018. Innovation is the norm. Tech-savvy youth are everywhere, and the orange economy is world famous. In the Bahamas, climate change risks are better confronted through strong adaptation for the 700 plus islands in the archipelago. More than 40% of the nation's coastlines have been reinforced to prevent erosion, creating numerous specialized jobs focused on climate adaptation, infrastructure, and resilience. The unemployment rate is less than 2%. Educated national youth strive to be innovative entrepreneurs, valuing stronger family units. Because of this, crime is at an all-time low. In Barbados, innovative battery storage technologies have transformed the landscape. Public transportation is powered through solar energy. 80% of the island's energy is created from renewable sources, creating thousands of jobs while reducing energy spending. LED streetlights illuminate highways and communities at night, saving millions of dollars each year for the government, business, and consumers. In Guyana, as one of the hemisphere's leading oil and gas producers, Guyana is able to export 90% of its fuel production while utilizing safe and environmentally friendly methods. Guyana's energy and forest wealth has been carefully managed, ensuring smart investments on behalf of its citizens. Supported by a robust broadband infrastructure, citizens' interactions with the government are conducted online in a more effective, efficient, and transparent way. Wi-Fi services are free for all, and roaming charges no longer exist. In Suriname, government spending is highly effective and efficient, thanks to the introduction of the Economic Stabilization Program, birthed from its own people. Also, modern farming methods, to include water-resistant seeds, have increased food production yields, making Suriname a significant global food source. in Trinidad and Tobago. Now one of the world's leading technology hubs, it's home to more than 300 private sector businesses that have prospered with the development and application of innovative technologies in energy, IT, and business services. A major regional export is advisory services based on music, cuisine, sports, and fashion, with creative icons demonstrating how to effectively extract revenue from intellectual property. The nation is still world famous for organic chocolate and specialized branded.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. We've had a very good discussion around first the foundational step points of cryptocurrencies and stablecoin, why they're so important, some of the use cases around it, how it can really be a game changer for other players around the globe. And we just learned that other players are leapfrogging the US and other countries in the use of these new financial tool sets that are coming out. I want you to bring us home, Chris. Bring us home to understanding this pivotal point in history. I want everybody to mark this time in history in 2025. It's been started for a long time. I mean, crystals really started getting, I think, about 10 years ago, they really started getting some traction. Now you're starting to see where they're a major player, a major investment for people. They are taking up space in portfolios that they've never done before. They're showing up now in banking systems as they have never done before. And I even heard now, like people use applications like Robinhood. Now you're seeing these financial planning systems are starting to use similar type tools because they were restricted before, but they're kind of, I hate to say it, a little late to the game. But they're still in play right now. So, Chris, bring us home.
Yeah, well, Grant, there's a lot there. That plate is full. I'm gonna try to grab a little piece of it, or maybe I'll just jump to dessert. But if I do jump to dessert, the dessert for me right now, and what's really exciting is just what we've seen in the crypto market in general since the beginning of the year. And what we've seen is a gradual incline and rising of prices across the board. And that is certainly for the top 20 that I mentioned earlier. We've seen this in terms of the usage of stable coins. And it's even seen this in some of the meme coins or some of what we call altcoins, right? Now, my view on all this is a couple of fold, right? So one is, we're seeing this increase. Look, it's very simple. The price increases if new money comes in. Okay. If new money doesn't come in, just the current money buying and selling and trading doesn't move it, right? Demand is what moves it. So as I said earlier, Bitcoin is more than 60% of the market cap of cryptocurrencies. And that has stayed pretty stable. And it's increased since the beginning of the year. I mean, we started at the beginning of the year, it was in the 70s thousands at one point, and we just hit 122,000 per Bitcoin, right? So if you just stuck your money in there, you would have been, in pretty good shape. At the same time, if you look at some of the meme coins, Dogecoin, which is very popular, Elon Musk likes to speak about that one. And by the way, when he speaks about it, it moves. Well, Dogecoin, if you had put $10,000 in Dogecoin at the beginning of the year, it'd be worth almost $1 million today.
Wow.
That's incredible. Okay. So you look at some of these things and then you have to say, okay, so where's the crypto market going? What should I be looking at? What should I be doing? Well, here's my take on a couple of things. One, again, Dogecoin, it's an exception. Okay. And I would be hard pressed to tell you that, if you put money into it today, that it will continue to go up. I think, the opposite will be true because there's no real underlining value other than when Elon Musk says something, right? So it's okay. I look at the ones that have underlining value. In other words, that they produce something, they do something, they have a usability, right? So one of the ones that I like a lot too is the number 2 currency, which is Ethereum. Okay.
Yes.
And Ethereum was, 1,700 about at the beginning of the year. It's now hit a new high of 4,400. So again, if you put in money in Ethereum at the beginning of the year, you would be, pretty pleased right now.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at your savings account at the bank and they're giving you 0.5% for the full year, right?
Yeah.
Laughing all the way at you. So here's some of the reasons why, okay? One of the reasons why is that Ethereum is actually a platform built that other cryptocurrencies and other software projects actually use. There's an inherent usability, number 1. Number 2, and here's the one I really like, right? Talking about stable coins, right? More than 65% of all stable coins are built on the Ethereum blockchain. So the simple math there is if stable coins keep increasing in usability and volume, Ethereum would also increase in usability and volume because what we call the gas, the currency you need to use to do things. So you want to do a transaction in USDT, right? The gas you use, the fee you pay is for the Ethereum blockchain is in Ether, is in ETH, which is the 3-letter designation for Ethereum, right? So the more stable coins that are being traded and used on the Ethereum blockchain, the more Ethereum will make, increasing the value of their coin. And I think I would easily say that Ethereum will reach $10,000 towards the end of the year per Ethereum coin, right? Per one Ethereum, right? I think that's well in range. I hear predictions out there of 20 and 25,000. I'm not that bullish, right?
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen in the future, but you start looking at, you said, the stability. You've already given us so many foundational things to look at when you're, trying to understand what's happening and making decisions for yourself or your family. That is like, hey, because these things they're so fluid right now, and you just can't say, you know what, I'm just not going to do anything. There's certain things that you can do that are going to be very, very impactful if you pay attention. Now we're going to get ready to close out here. I want everybody to continue to get value out of the big picture. When Chris speaks, St. Croix listens.
Thank you so much. My home away from home.
Your home away from. So I want to thank you again for continuing to be here. We're going to bring some exciting news next week because there's always something happening within the financial world, within the technology plane. And when you get fintech coming together in financial IT, and don't forget to subscribe to the Financial IT Magazine or the Follow Brand Podcast at 5-Star BDM. And then again, we'll see you again next week. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Grant. Thank you.